Pidgeot should be a decent Pokemon in Gen 1. It ranks 49th out of 151 Pokemon with a 399 base stat total. It comes in with really good 91 base speed to go together with 80 base attack, 83 base HP, 75 base defense, and 70 special. The real thing here that it has going for it though is that it is in the medium slow level up group, so it's going to level up faster than most Pokemon in the game, and it has a nice 17.77% critical hit chance. So that would make you think that Pidgeot could join the 14 other Pokemon that we've run so far on beating the game of Pokemon Red and Blue on ultra minimum battles, a setting where we fight only the 8 gym leaders, the Elite Four, and the champion. That is it. 13 battles to beat the entire game. It has proven not to be impossible, even for some Pokemon with some pretty bad typings. We're talking about Magneton with its terrible moveset, still managing to get through on this challenge. However, I think Pidgeot could be our first Pokemon that completely fails. And there are a few reasons for that. Number one is the fact that the normal and flying type in Gen 1 is pretty bad. When your strongest flying type move is Fly, that is 70 base power, unless you want to go Sky Attack and be exposed to the damage for an entire turn, and the fact that there is no coverage for rock types means that Pidgeot is pretty tough in the early game. But even then, once we get to later gym leaders like Giovanni will struggle against his Rhydon, and Lorelei with her ice typing is going to be a massive wall. I think we can find a way through Lieutenant Surge if we can just manage to get through Brock and Misty, and if we get through him and can just get on a roll against Erica, there might be a shot here. But I think that we're going to have to get all the way up to level 44 for the league to get agility, to get access to the badge boost glitch, and we're probably going to be going for a lot of sand attack strats and a lot of broken TMs in order to get this one to go. Still, I'm going to test it fully. We're going to take Pidgeot as far as it can possibly go on this setting, but I'm just warning you now, it might be the first Pokemon that completely fails. Let's get into this and find out. So today, as we step outside of Pallet Town, Professor Oak's going to lead us back to the lab because he's been doing some research for L'Oreal and he needs to show us the new Giga Chad hairdo on his Pokemon. Now, I have put Pidgeot into the Charmander ball. This way we can go up against the Blastoise team at the end because Blastoise knows Blizzard, meaning it will have a super effective move if we get to the final Pokemon, making this, I think, the hardest challenge that we can take. Still, we are coming in with 15 DVs in every single stat, so this will be the strongest possible Pidgeot, and because we're running on ultra minimum battles, we get to also come in with 10 of every single vitamin, 12 rare candies, 4 full restores, 4 elixirs, and recently I have been allowing the PP ups as well, though I don't have them here in the bag. There are 4 PP ups available pretty easily in a standard solo challenge without even having to go into the Cerulean Cave. So we're going to allow 4 PP ups as well in this one. I think we're going to need them. But for now, I'm going to slam all of these vitamins and let's just see what stats we get on our Pidgeot. So with all of the vitamins, Ultra Chad the Pidgeot is ready to go with 16 attack, 16 defense, 17 speed, and 15 special. We've got 26 HP. We're going to start off with the moveset of Gust, Sand Attack, and Quick Attack, and I think Sand Attack's going to be on our moveset for quite a while, given the fact that this Pokemon's probably only going to get through the early game with Sand Attack strats. We're going to have to see how this goes. Now, we have to lose to Rival 1, which we don't have any moves that could damage this Gengar anyway, so we will simply get knocked out right there. And now we are transported out of the lab into Sabrina's gym. The statue has turned into a PC, which is loaded with basically every TM in the game except for Double Team and TMs that are given by gym leaders. There aren't a lot of gym leader TMs that this Pokemon can even learn, like Toxic, basically, and Bide. Don't think we're going for either of those, but who knows? Maybe we get that desperate. We can get HM2 though, which will be a massive improvement on our moveset. Pidgeot doesn't learn things like Body Slam, obviously, but it does get access to other normal type TMs. We can get things like Swift, Sky Attack, Razor Wind, though I'm not sure we'd ever go for that. Double Edge is in option. Rage would technically be stab. We also might want reflect for defense. We might need TM 50 for the sake of getting a substitute. Rest could come into play. There's just honestly a ton of TMs that we might end up using. I'm just not sure if we really want to. Sky Attack, for what it's worth, is technically the strongest move of this Pokemon, though we'll have to see if we ever find a spot where it's actually usable. In other words, we can survive the setup turn in order to knock things out. That may require the substitute in order to get it to go. We'll just have to see. This Pokemon really desperately wants a stat boosting move, but there's just not really much to give it. So for now, we're gonna have to see if this is enough, and I think we have to go to Brock first. I don't see any way that we get through any of the other gym leaders at level 5, and honestly, this comes down to whether or not we can survive enough turns. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to teach Reflect to Ultra Chad right here. I'm also going to replace Gust with Fly. I think we keep Quick Attack on the basis that it's not going to deal any damage, but we can use it to just like whittle things down or outspeed for sure against the Onix. That may be useful. So let's get into this fight and see how it goes. So Brock attempt number 1 right here. He leads off with the Geodude. I think we go Sand Attack first, hoping to get the misses. Then we go for the Reflect to increase our ability to withstand tackles if we do get hit. But I'm going all in on the Sand Attacks here. Now we can see like Fly does basically nothing. But since he's already defense curled a bunch of times, I don't think there's any advantage for going for anything else. And I think we just have to get insane accuracy luck on this first Pokemon. We don't get it that time, so we're going to have to take our first reset. Now, in the ideal case, we don't take any damage while we're setting up here. And then once we get everything set up, we can go Quick Attack or we can go Fly here. I'm just using Fly because there's no chance of Bide here against this Pokemon. In Gen 1, opponents don't have PP, so there's no way to PP stall here. But we are getting better luck on this attempt, and keep in mind, critical hits are a thing with this Pidgeot. We have that 17.77% chance to crit the opponent. So while it's incredibly tedious, it does look like we're going to be able to get through Geodude, barring some bad luck. He did get a critical hit on me, which was bad luck there, but we have made it to the Onix. Now I'm going to set up these Sand Attacks first on the Onix. It goes Bide, which is perfectly fine. I just want to make sure that its accuracy is as low as possible. Then when it's still using Bide, I'll even use Reflect again just to waste turns. The big issue here is that we are not dealing a whole lot of damage. So learning Fly might have been a mistake. We might have been better off staying with Gust just to have more PP. So I'm actually going to correct that by teaching the move Rage here. Rage will just do 1 damage, but it will guarantee that we have infinite PP effectively from that point. That might be all we actually need. So this time we get to the Onix on good HP. The problem is, of course, if it goes Bide a bunch of turns, we could simply lose. Because of the fact that we're stuck using Rage here. It is raising our attack stat though, which is allowing us to deal more damage. We simply lose on that attempt. So I don't know. I think we actually need Gust here rather than Fly. So I'm going to have to go back to the start of this one and correct that mistake. So back with Gust and Quick Attack, we should now have enough PP to actually get through this fight, assuming that we just get the luck that we need. I think we have to reset on runs where we get hit by the Geodude while we're setting up. We really wanted to use Defense Curl during the setup phase so that we can simply get all of the accuracy drops and get Reflect set up so that we take less damage. Then against the Geodude, I'm just going to spam Gust since it's super weak, but will at least deal 1 damage per hit and has a lot of PP. So let's see if we can get back to Onix. Sure enough, we do as we get to level 8. So here we'll go back into the Sand Attacks against the Onix, just getting its accuracy down as much as possible. With its accuracy reduced, we can go Quick Attack as long as it's not using Bide, and we kind of want to see Bide here. We have been hit by Screech 3 times, so we have very low defense. Once it goes bide, we can simply waste turns with anything. And while it's not pretty, we are slowly but surely whittling this one down if it just doesn't land a bunch of attacks on us. Here we are out of non-damage dealing moves, so if he goes bite again, we will have to attack him. He has 3 HP remaining. We're hoping that we get the 3-turn bide here. Sure enough, we do. So we managed to beat Brock. It took 17 attempts there, but we get to level 10, 15 minutes, 50 seconds. The first gym is done. But with that, Pidgeot is ready to move on in the game. We're going to have to see if we can get through either of the next 2 gym leaders, though. I don't think we deal enough damage at this point to take on Erica, which is why I think Misty has to be the next gym leader that we take on, just based on levels and everything else. Reflect probably doesn't help us very much here, so we need to decide what to do instead. Now, Hyper Beam strats can come in here, as it is a fairly strong same type move. We could just forget Gust to learn the Hyper Beam, keep the quick attack in case we need to get the extra speed to get, just a quick KO on low health. But let's get into this fight and see if this is enough or not. So Misty attempt number 1. First, let's see what quick attack does to the Staryu. It only does that much. Now Hyper Beam just barely misses getting the 1-hit KO. Still, we managed to get through the Staryu. We get to level 12. On Starmie, it might be worth it to go for some sand attacks. We lose the first attempt, but let's just see if we can get some luck here. We are, of course, slower than the Staryu, which is a factor here, but I still think we could sand attack a couple times here. Maybe go for some quick attacks to get a range, and then go for the Hyper Beam to hopefully knock this one out. And then on Starmie, it's back to the sand attacks to try to survive here. I could go for a substitute strat. I want to hold off on that as long as I possibly can, though. I think this is going to be the better play for now. It is also worth noting that she can go for tackle against us because of her quote-unquote smart AI. So Reflect could be helpful in those situations to survive more hits. Though when she uses her water moves, that's when we really get wrecked here. So I think we basically go for 3 sand attacks on each of the Pokemon, and we're just hoping for them to use the wrong moves. Now here we really like that she can use X defense, giving us one of the turns that we need to set up these sand attacks, though it does affect our ranges with the Hyper Beam after the fact. Still, we get to Starmie pretty consistently here, so it's just going to be a matter of getting some good accuracy luck on that Pokemon, and that starts with getting a turn where we can actually set something up. So far, we haven't gotten a single miss from Starmie, which is why it's taking so many resets here. So this is our best attempt getting to the Starmie so far. We do survive Bubble Beam. She X defends the next turn. We can see that a critical hit quick attack against the Starmie does 9 damage, but it still hits Water Gun and takes me down. There was going to be no way of getting through there without crits after it X defends. So we're in bad shape in this fight. It does open the question of whether it's better to go to Surge. Even though we have a type weakness here, we might be able to get better luck just on the basis that his Pokemon are typically a little bit more physically frail. Let's see if we can manage to get something to go here. So here against Surgy Boy, I'm going to see what Quick Attack does to the Voltorb. It really doesn't do that much. Let's see what Hyper Beam does instead. Yeah, it looks like it would take 2 Hyper Beams to knock this Pokemon out. It will attack randomly, though. It doesn't have any electric type moves, so we can at least get through that Pokemon. Then Pikachu is a 1-hit KO with the Hyper Beam, and the question is just the Thunder Shock against that Raichu. So in this case, I think we just try to get through the first Pokemon as quick as possible. And against the Pikachu, we're slower, but he goes X speed. I go for a sand attack this time, and that allows us to get through with no accuracy drop. Now let's just see how much damage we do against Raichu. Keeping in mind, it has a fairly good defense stat relative to our attack stat here. Quick Attack, again, only does a sliver. Obviously, Thunderbolt will end us. So that also just doesn't seem to work. Now, we would either have to drop rare candies or change our moveset here, because I don't think we're getting through Erica. We're just too slow, and she's just going to wrap us down. So I actually think this is a spot to go for substitute on our Pidgeot. basically we set up the substitute at the beginning of the fight so that we can survive a hit. We might then need a crit or something at the end in order to win. I'm going to test this out first on Surge. If it doesn't work, then we'll go back to Misty. So here against Surge, I'm going to lead off with the substitute. We do get Sonic Boomed, but that's still, I think, okay. Then we'll give a couple of tackles to the first Voltorb. Of course, if it goes Sonic Boom a bunch of times, we simply lose and we'll have to reset. This time he X speeds turn 1. We need to get him in a range where we can knock him out with the Hyper Beam. We get Sonic Boomed right there, but we can then just barely miss knocking the Pokemon out. We'll still get the quick attack on the next turn though. Pikachu goes Thunder Shock. That will simply allow us to hit it with a Hyper Beam, but now we really need an X speed to get through here on the final Raichu, which I think is like a 1 in 8 chance. I'm not exactly sure, but it's definitely not great. More ideally, we managed to get through to the final Raichu with the substitute set up, giving us that extra turn. So here against Pikachu, I'm going to try to set up the substitute again, but unfortunately, we just got paralyzed and we're not going to win that one. At this point, speed is our major issue. Still, next attempt, we're back to Pikachu. We can get the one-hit KO there. We're back to Raichu after that, but it simply wrecks me. So I don't think this is working. Let's go back to Misty and see if we can somehow get her to work out. So back to Misty here, we will set up substitute on the first Staryu and go for these sand attacks here. Yes, it will break my substitute. I think that's fine as long as we get it set up again. Now we can go for our quick attacks to get it into a range where we can actually knock it out. We do need misses together with the substitute though, otherwise we simply lose. So it's probably better to go for the sand attacks first and then try to set up the substitute. And then if our substitute gets broken here, we'll simply have to reset yet again. So this time we do get to the Starmie with substitute still set up. It goes Bubble Beam turn 1. We can still knock that Pokemon out, but we're on too low HP to set up another substitute. Still, it misses one tackle, so we can see what kind of ranges we get. We did not even get the chance to get more than a single hit off there, though. Back to Starmie again the next turn. We get X Defend turn 1. Water Gun misses. We get hit by the Bubble Beam, but here I'm going to go hard on the accuracy. We survive with 1 HP against a tackle, only to again be immediately knocked out, even though we set up a bunch of sand attacks there. The Starmie just refuses to miss anything. Generally speaking, I'm going for about 3 to 4 sand attacks. I know people will argue for 2, but we need so many turns here that I think going harder is a little bit better. This time we have enough HP to actually set up another substitute on Starmie, which is a small advantage, but it is hitting everything, and it has X Defend. Let's just see what Hyper Beam does. It does nothing there. It looks like a 4-hit KO without crits after the X Defend. Still, I think this is our best shot of getting through this fight, so I think we just have to go for it and just hope that eventually we can get the accuracy luck. This time we get Starmie's accuracy all the way down, but it still just immediately hits as soon as I stop using Sand Attack. This time we get through on a little bit better health to the Starmie. It misses with a Gen 1 miss with the first Water Gun, only to hit the next one and then hit the Bubble Beam and end me. So clearly she was upset about the Gen 1 miss. So we end up losing even when we get insane luck here. This time we get a critical hit Hyper Beam on the Starmie, doing over half. It misses a Bubble Beam. I'm going to Quick Attack to try to get it in a range where I can knock it out with the Hyper Beam. And of course, on 12 HP remaining, she has to hit and knock me out. So at this point, I think there's actually only one option that remains for us to get an advantage here, because Hyper Beam's not doing enough, and that is to go substitute Bide. So I'm going to forget Hyper Beam, learn Bide, with the entire logic being that if I can get like one miss while I have a substitute up and get another hit that does massive damage and return the damage, it might be possible to simply bide down the Starmie. It's not going to be pretty, but this is at this point, I think, my best opportunity to actually get a victory here. So I think we stick with Quick Attack on the Staryu, just trying to knock it out. And we really need to still have a substitute when we get to Starmie. This time we do get the luck to get that to go at least. So I'm going to go for the Bide strat as she goes X Defend turn 1. She tackles, And if we had gotten anything else, I think we could have survived there. We might still have to set up a couple of accuracy drops to try to get one miss so that we can get this set up properly. With this setup, it is possible to get to Starmie reasonably. Here I'm setting up a couple of sand attacks. Now I'm going for the substitute again, and now I'm going for the bide strat, hoping that she hits like one strong move against me. She doesn't hit anything now. Now she hits Bubble Beam while I'm behind the substitute, but then immediately hits the next turn. We would have needed her to miss one of the two, and I think the return damage would do enough to knock her out. This is just so tedious because you need runs where you get through to the Starmies still with decent enough HP to be able to set up a couple of substitutes, which is not guaranteed. It's entirely dependent on how many times Staryu hits you. Okay, this time we get one water gun miss. We set up bide. We get 2 hits from the Starmie, but then it was a 3-turn bide, so we still get knocked out. Once again, we get that X defend that we wanted to see. She immediately bubble beams though as I go for bide, and of course we're losing in that case because we couldn't possibly survive a hit to actually return damage. Now, TM43 for Sky Attack is technically our strongest possible move. So let's just see if we can get the luck to get through Misty if we go for Sky Attack strats here, since at least it will deal more damage than basically anything else. So here I still think we set up Sand Attack on Staryu, and if it still hits 3 water guns in a row, we're basically getting wrecked. But now let's set up Substitute and use that as a barrier to allow us to set up the Sky Attack. That nearly one-hit KO'd there. Let's try this one again. We managed to get through the Staryu. We made it to Starmie. We level up to where we would learn Quick Attack. I'm just going to skip it for now, though. We get Water Gunned by the Starmie. We're going to have to lower that Pokemon's accuracy to let us try to go Sky Attack. This time we get a Bubble Beam while we're using Bide behind a Substitute. We return the damage, and it's just not quite enough to knock out the Starmie. It survived on just a sliver. That could be a damage range. Oh my gosh. We get another attempt at the Starmie. It hits Bubble Beam while we're behind the Substitute. We unleash the energy, and this time we do get the range. Still, it took an insane amount of time. We're up to nearly an hour just to get through the second gym. We're down to a score of 66.3 because we've used 2 broken TMs, 5 TMs, 87 resets to get that to go. But I think we have to sit here and reset against Misty. I think we can't drop rare candies here. It will simply be too bad if we do that because we won't have enough rare candies in the late game. We're still a little bit slower than we need to be against Erica, so I do think we have to take on Surgy Boy now. We are, I think, faster than Pikachu though, so I think we can forget Bide and go for the Sky Attack and Hyper Beam as our current moveset. Let's just see how this goes. I'm not confident here, but maybe with crits we can make this work out. So Surgy Boy back again. We're still slower than the first Voltorb, but let's see what Hyper Beam does. It does score a one-hit KO there. That brings out the Pikachu, and we are in fact faster than this Pokemon, so we can just Hyper Beam it down. Now the question is, does he go for X speed with the Raichu? He goes Thunder Shock, and a critical hit Thunder Shock is enough to end us, but maybe a non-crit isn't, and we could get a substitute up or get a Sand Attack off. Let's just test this again and see. We're really hoping for Screech from the first Voltorb, which we get, so that is good, but it turns out that this is not a one-hit KO all the time. Then we take a couple of Sonic Booms. We can still knock out Pikachu just fine, and if he went for something silly like an X speed, we could set up a substitute or Sand Attack on that last Pokemon. We just didn't get to see the range this time. Still, with Hyper Beam having very little PP, we also need to not get misses in this one if we're gonna have a chance to get through. We get a nice crit on Voltorb this time, and we're gonna get a knockout Pikachu. So we're back to the Raichu on full health this time. He X speeds. I gave him 1 Sand Attack. Now I'm gonna substitute. He goes Thunderbolt while we're behind the substitute, but let's see what the Hyper Beam does. It is a 2-hitter, but we survived the Thunder Shock only to miss Hyper Beam. Otherwise, we would have had the victory. Let's try this one again. So now with everything we know, I think we go substitute at the beginning of the fight. Of course, we don't really like it if Voltorb just goes for Sonic Boom against us here. We need something other than that to be able to get through. Still, we managed to knock that Pokemon out. We'll knock out the Pikachu. We've made it back to the Raichu. I'm going for Sand Attack when it goes X speed turn 1. It goes Thunder Shock right there. We miss Hyper Beam and we miss Hyper Beam again. So that basically guarantees the loss when we miss 2 Hyper Beams in a row, but even a crit Hyper Beam would get the victory on that last Pokemon. Back to Raichu again. He once again X speed, so I'll give him a Sand Attack. He breaks my substitute with Thunder Shock. We get Thunder Shocked again. Any miss would have allowed us to win that one. So this is just so close. I can see the way to get a victory against Surgy Boy. We just need all the luck to actually line up. This time he X speeds. We got 1 Sand Attack on him before. I'm going to give him another Sand Attack here. Of course, we can't set up any more substitutes at that point, and he simply knocks me out. It's probably better to go for the crit at that point. I was just hoping to have the substitute up just in case I missed or something. Still, we're probably banking on the crit here against that final Raichu, which, as mentioned, is about a 17, almost 18% chance, assuming that we actually hit with the Hyper Beam though, and it does miss 10% of the time. Still, we get a lot of runs where we get to the Raichu, so I think that's the luck that we need to get this one to go. This time we finally get the crit on the Raichu. It is a 1-hit KO with Hyper Beam. That took 18 attempts there against Surgy Boy, but we get to level 17. It's taken an hour, 3 minutes to get through 3 gyms. We're up to 104 resets. That is nuts. From the 15-minute Brock split to now the 1-hour Lieutenant Surge split. Still better than what we dealt with on Misty, so I guess we're slightly improving. We are still going to be slower than Erica's first Pokemon though, and I'm pretty sure we're just going to get wrapped. So I'm not sure if we can actually get through that one at this point, but it's not like we have any sort of advantage on anything else. So I guess Erica is the way to go. We have Sky Attack, could technically throw on Fly, but I think what we really need to do is go for accuracy on the first Victory Bell. So if we can get a miss or a Poison Powder or something that might enable us to lower its accuracy enough that we can actually manage to get through. Poison Powder can miss 25% of the time. I think it's just going to mix between those 2 moves, Poison Powder and Wrap. So let's see if we can get this to go, but this is probably not going to be as easy a fight as you would think it would be as a flying type going up against the grass type gym because of the Wrap strats that she uses with Victory Bell. Still, let's test it out and see. So Erica attempt number 1, she of course goes Wrap turn 1 against me. Then we get Poison Powder. We can lower the accuracy of Wrap by using Sand Attack. We would really prefer that the Poison Powder does not hit us though. Like I said, it's like a 25% chance for that move to miss, but that's really going to be the only chance that we get to get through this. Of course, Wrap can also miss. This time we get the Poison Powder miss turn 1 and turn 2. Now I'm setting up substitute so she can't hit me with Poison Powder, and I'm just going to go for all of the accuracy debuffs here to try to make it so that she basically can never hit. She does get the Wrap on me and breaks my substitute, but I'll just set up a new one. And here she's hitting Wrap even though she's on -6 accuracy. Sky Attack with a crit does take down the Victory Bell though. That brings us to Tangela. It goes for Constrict. We can see this is a 2-hit KO with Sky Attack, but we can just Hyper Beam that one down from there. That brings us to Vileplume. I'm pretty sure it goes Poison Powder here. Sure enough, it does. We can go for Sky Attack. She did go for Mega Drain, but all of her moves are Grass type. Petal Dance doesn't really matter, and we managed to Hyper Beam it down, so we managed to get through Erica just in a couple attempts. Getting to level 21, we will not learn Whirlwind, but an hour, 6 minutes, 18 seconds to get through that one. It wasn't as bad as I thought as soon as we got the Poison Powder miss at the beginning and could set up all the accuracy drops in the substitute. That is what you need to get through Erica though. She's not going to be just a free win just because you're a flying type here. The critical hit Sky Attack on that first Pokemon also probably had a massive impact on that. So yeah, it's probably all said and done about the best that we can do, but really not great. Now I'm going to try Koga. I'm not confident that I'm going to do any good here. I think we have to go for the sand attack plus substitute strats. We could try to minimize in order to get badge boosts and attack, but I'm just not sure if that's going to be enough to get us through the fight. So I'm going to try as I am once. Let's just see how this goes. So Koga attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with sand attack against the coughing, then set up the substitute. And now let's see what our stab hyper beam does here. It's looking like a 3-hit KO. With that, I'm going to go sky attack and see, but that still looks like it's going to be a 3-hitter. So either way we go, it's really not looking great there. Let's see how we do against the Muck. It goes Sludge, which is kind of bad luck. He only has 1 damage dealing move with this Pokemon, and he's choosing to use it every single turn, and we fainted ourselves from using the substitute. We're going to have to get better luck than that. So this time I'm going to go for sand attacks against the Muck. We're on too low a health to actually go for any more substitutes, and we simply get wrecked right there. This makes me think that the Mimic strat is required, unless we're going to go for rare candies, because I think we're going to need to get the badge boost from Minimize to actually be able to knock things out, and that's going to give our best shot of getting through the final wheezing. So I think I forget substitute at this point, because I still think sand attack might be necessary later on. So this is the best strat I can think of. Let's see if it works. So here I'm basically just going to go for sand attack on the first coughing and now go hyper beam. We know that it's going to take multiple hits to get through this one. It just hits all the smogs, which is terrible. Still, we managed to get through. We can mimic minimize here from the Muck. And now I'm going for 6 minimizes to get all the badge boosts. We get the poison gas, which is terrible for that move to hit even when we've got minimize on. With all the minimize set up, let's just see what hyper beam even does. We missed, so we didn't get to see the range. Let's try this one again. So the big thing here is that I think we need really good accuracy luck against the first coughing in order to have a decent chance of getting through this. I also think coughing is the spot where we go for sky attack, since we can at least survive some hits here. Of course, if it starts going for smoke screen, we get completely wrecked. This time we get all the setup against Muck. Of course, it had to hit poison gas on me, and of course we can't hit anything at this point. Still, I think we have to find a way through this Pokemon, and then as long as we can get through the next of the coughings, we would be perfectly fine. Unfortunately, we missed everything there, so we simply lose. So we're going to need to get really good accuracy luck on that Muck as well. Of course, we keep just missing everything when we do survive enough turns against Muck, because it's also setting up minimize. We really want that Pokemon to get stuck on like using disable or something that's really not actually useful. And it's just really hard to get the luck to actually line up the way we need it to. This time, when we get the minimizes set up, we can see that Muck becomes a 2-hit KO with Hyper Beam. So we just need to land 2 hits. We do manage to get it. We'll level up right here as we go to the next coughing. Unfortunately, we've only got 2 damage dealing PP left, 1 Hyper Beam and 1 Sky Attack, because we used everything up before this. So now I guess we just sand attack a bunch of times against this coughing, but of course we have to get poisoned right here, and that's the end of this one because we can't get the struggle. This time we managed to get to the second coughing with 1 hyper beam and 3 sky attacks. We just need to actually land hits here. We get 1, we miss 1, and we miss another. Oh no. We're on such low health, we would have to get to struggle here to knock out this coughing. I'm sand attacking like crazy, and we need it to not hit anything here. If it hits tackle, we simply lose. Still, if we get to the final wheezing, it can just go boom against us with the massive amounts of evasion that we have set up. And that's basically the strategy. Still, accuracy drops are a major issue for us as well because of the smoke screens. We know Koga loves the cheese here. So this time, while we do get one Hyper Beam on Muck, we have no PP remaining. So I'm going for the sand attacks yet again, hoping that I can reach the point where it doesn't have any ability to hit me, because I think any hit means that we're dead. We take a massive sludge there, and I think that's gonna mean that this is just not enough HP to struggle everything down. We get through the muck and level up here, but the coughing just has too much HP to struggle down from full health on this level, so we simply lose yet again. Another attempt back at the second coughing. We hit one sky attack. We would need like a crit here to knock this one out, but even the crit is not quite enough. So now we're sand attacking like crazy on this one, trying to lower its accuracy, keep it from hitting anything. We have some accuracy drops as well, but at this range, we should be able to struggle this Pokemon down as long as we don't take any crazy hits. In fact, we do. Now we've made it to Weezing. This is the first time I've seen Weezing in 43 attempts. He just needs to self-destruct and miss, but he hits. Are you kidding me? Come on. Oh, we got all the way there and he just goes boom, just like we wanted him to, but he doesn't miss. He's like 75% to miss there at this point because of all of the evasion that we've got set up. Oh, that's terrible. Terrible, I say. Next attempt, we are back to that coughing though with a lot more PP. So let's go for the hyper beams here. We get a sludge as we miss a hyper beam. We get smogged and poisoned. Still, we knock that one out. We're back to the final Weezing, but on very low health. But this time it misses the self-destruct. Finally, 44 attempts, we get through Koga and get to level 24. We're up to 1 hour, 32 minutes, 11 seconds to beat that gym. We've got 148 resets, 6 TMs, 3 broken TMs. I think this is the worst Pokemon we've run on these settings. Now we can try Sabrina or Blaine. Giovanni could also be possible if we can just reach a point of outspeeding his Pokemon, but we only have 65 speed at this point. So I think my play is to go against Sabrina, just because her Pokemon are physically pretty frail. If we get through the first Kadabra, which is just going to randomize against us, we could even pick up a badge boosting move against the Mr. Mime with the barrier. That may be our strategy. Let's get into this and see if we can manage a victory or not. So Sabrina, attempt number 1. I'm just going to try to hyper beam the Kadabra, but of course Psychic will just one-shot me because I'm so under-leveled relative to her. So we're going to have to try this again and hope that it goes like recover or disable here. It goes recover this time. That allows us to get the one-hit KO, at least with a crit. We get to level 25. I'm going to mimic the move barrier if I can actually manage to move here, just because that will give us some badge boosts. Here we can at least outspeed against the Mr. Mime. It has set up barrier though, which is a problem because it means we're not going to deal very much damage and we get double slapped down. Let's see if we can get better luck than that. So back again to Kadabra, we can one-shot that Pokemon. Mr. Mime comes out. We will once again mimic barrier and set it up because we want to be faster than these Pokemon, at least to the greatest extent that we can be. Now we're going for the hyper beams, but we just keep missing, and it's going to take 2 hyper beams to take down the Mr. Mime, and he even barriers again. We're out of PP and hyper beam. We only have sky attack, and that ends us on that one. Now let's just see what happens if we just go all in on attack against the Mr. Mime. After one barrier, we do less than half with a hyper beam. A critical hit hyper beam would one-shot there though. A couple attempts later, we do get through that Pokemon. We get to level 26 as we go to the Venomoth, which I think is going to go Poison Powder or Psybeam here. It's Psybeams. I go for the Sky Attack. I was really hoping for a Poison Powder so that I could manage to get through, because we level up right there and that causes us to be slower. So the level up in battle makes me think that maybe this one just doesn't work out. I'm going to try instead a couple of other battles. I'm going to try to come to Giovanni with the idea of trying to get some badge boosts and maybe go Horn Drill strats. Let's just see how this actually works. So here against Giovanni, my strategy is simple. I'm going to mimic the move Horn Drill from the first Rhyhorn, and then we're trying to hit Horn Drill on this Pokemon. If it Tail Whips, we're happy, and if it goes for Horn Drill, it does no damage. If it goes for anything else, I think we're in bad shape. So I think we're just basically banking on that. Here we do manage the Horn Drill on the first Pokemon. We get to level 25 on Dugtrio. It goes for the Sand Attack, but this is clearly a 2-hit KO with Hyper Beam, so that's perfectly fine. Now we get to Nidoqueen, where I think we really want her to go Tail Whip against us. We get the Tail Whip, and as long as we're faster, we can go for Horn Drill there. Let me just see this again. So once again, we Horn Drill the first Pokemon. Dugtrio goes Slash, though. That's not what we want to see. We really want to see it go Sand Attack against us if we're going to get through this one. This time we get a nice critical hit there, so we do manage to get through. We're in a speed tie with the Nidoqueen, but we do land Horn Drill. That brings us to the Nidoking at level 27. We're still slower than this Pokemon. I'm going to go Hyper Beam to see the range. Hyper Beam doesn't look too bad. It's just going for Tackle and Horn Attack and things. Once it goes Thrash, though, that's where we actually lose. We really want like Poison Sting or Tackle there in order to give us a better chance of getting through that Pokemon. Interestingly, we might have just enough speed to actually make this fight work. We get another attempt back to Nidoking, but we have taken a lot of attack drops, so I'm going hard on Sand Attack here. He finally guard specs, so we can't use that move anymore. We're hoping for a crit. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it and we go down. Still, as long as we get to the final Rhydon with some PP in Horn Drill, we will outspeed there, so we will have a decent shot of actually hitting the move. That's all that we actually need to eventually get a victory on this one. It's also completely random where he uses his guard specs, so we don't know in advance whether or not we can actually use stat altering moves like Sand Attack or not. So we just kind of have to hope for luck there. Still, after a lot of attempts, that doesn't quite seem to work out for me. So I'm going to try Blaney Boy next. Let's just see if we can find some way through him with this setup instead. So against Blaine, of course, he's going to attack completely randomly. I'm going to give one Sand Attack to the first Growlithe, and then I'm going to set up Agility to outspeed. Let's see what the Hyper Beam does here. We get the one-hit KO with a crit there. Ponyta, we can Hyper Beam, and we once again crit. So I don't know the range. Hyper Beam misses on Rapidash. It gets us in the Fire Spin. Still not too much damage there. We did about half with the first Hyper Beam. I think we need to Sand Attack here to lower accuracy and then finish the Agility setup there so that we get more badge boosts. Let's just try this one again. So here I'll just set up one Agility. Hyper Beam will be a 2-hitter though on the Growlithe at that point. So clearly the crits matter early on in this battle. Like, you're not getting through these Pokemon as 1-hitters without getting crits. And we're so close to a level up that I'm just not sure that it's actually going to work out here. I still think we take Agility for the sake of being faster and getting some badge boosts, but then I'm going to go Sky Attack against less threatening Pokemon like this Ponyta, though now we get a Growl, which is even worse. Still, we managed to get the critical hit there. We get to level 26. I'm going to now go for Sand Attacks against this Rapidash. I'll set up my remaining Agilities right here. We still get hit by Fire Spin, which is unfortunate. But now let's see if we can hit Sky Attack. We miss. Let's go Hyper Beam. We once again missed with that move, so we didn't get to deal any damage there against the Rapidash, just due to the inaccuracy of our moves. Back to Rapidash. I'm going to set up quite a few accuracy drops here. We get a couple attack drops, so we're doing very little damage. We're going to need a lot of luck here to get through this one, including, I think, crits. Sure enough, with all these attack drops, we simply couldn't take down the Rapidash. We need basically for it to go for something other than Growl. This time we get a nice crit, even though we get growled, but we still didn't get the range with Hyper Beam. That brings us to the Arcanine for the first time, though, and we simply get wrecked. I think we have to go for all the accuracy strats there, or hope that he goes Roar in order to get through this. We get another attempt at the Arcanine here. He super potions turn 1, but then he takes down turn 2. And again, nothing that we could do against that move when it actually hits. Another attempt back at Arcanine though, only to get wrecked again. That Arcanine just simply doesn't want to go down. And here I've been resetting for a massive amount of time. I think at this point we have to start dropping rare candies to have any shot of getting through any of these fights. So I'm going to go up to level 28 first. It doesn't feel good to use rare candies here, but honestly, I think that's all that we can do. So I'm going to try to go to Sabrina first with the rare candies on. We have more speed. Maybe this works. So here against the Kadabra, we are still slower. It goes disable and disables Hyper Beam. Not what I wanted to see, but we do knock it out with a Sky Attack after that. We can now mimic Barrier yet again in order to get badge boosts. The question is, where do we level up in this fight? At the very least, Mr. Mime is a 2-hitter with Hyper Beam after the badge boost, even though it did Barrier itself. We get to level 29 right here against the Venomoth. I'm going to start glowing though, and then hit it with the Sky Attack. So we do get to Alakazam. It hits Psy Beam though. We wanted it to go like Recover or Psy Wave or something else there, just not Psy Beam. Now I think we hold off on setting up with the barriers in the case that we get to Mr. Mime. I think we hold off until we get to the final Alakazam. In fact, we might be better off just mimicking some other move. I'm honestly not sure. For now, I'm going to just go all in on attack against Mr. Mime and knock it out. Let's forget about badge boosts here. Let's see if we can manage to get through this Venomoth. We do get poisoned, but that's perfectly fine. Now we get wrecked still by a critical hit Psybeam, so we didn't get to see any ranges against Alakazam still. But I think this is our best play, is just try to get to Alakazam and then see if we can get a lucky range there. Still, we're not getting very good luck here, and we just get wrecked again by Alakazam when we finally get there. So at this point, honestly, all-out attack just seems like the best play against Sabrina. Even then, she's really inconsistent when you're only level 28 in this fight. And if you get confused, and honestly, if you take a hit from the first Kadabra, I think you just reset in this fight. It is 50-50 to not use a damage-dealing move, so I think that's just the way to go. Back to Alakazam again. This time it goes Reflect, so we finally get a hit something. A critical hit Hyper Beam, I think, would win against that final Alakazam. So if we can just get there, get one turn and get a crit, this will be a victory. It's just a matter of getting there, which is more consistent with the all-out attack strat, but it's not like you get there every single time. There are plenty of situations where Kadabra just decides to kind of troll, or you miss with some of these attacking moves. Back to Alakazam again. It once again goes Reflect. Now it goes Psy Wave twice in a row, but it gets high enough rolls to knock me out. We actually like the Psy Wave because it's possible to take even no damage from that move, though obviously that does take quite a bit of luck. This time we once again get to the Alakazam. It goes Reflect, Recover, Recover, and we get the crit with Sky Attack. So 17 attempts there. We finally managed to beat Sabrina and get to level 30. It's taken 2 hours to get through 6 gyms. That is how bad this Pidgeot is. But now at this level of speed, I think we're going to be fast enough to outspeed everything on Giovanni's team, which I think then means that we can go for the Horn Drill strats and get through. Let's just see how this goes at this point. So Giovanni attempt number 1 at this higher level. Let's get the Horn Drill, because that's still our best play against the Rhyhorn and Rhydon. We managed to knock that one out. We can go Hyper Beam against the Doug Trio. Of course, we miss, and we get a Sand Attack and Growl and another Sand Attack. So we're basically losing that one. I don't see any way that we get through from here. Obviously, Wing Attack is a terrible move. We won't learn that. Only 35 power in Gen 1. But here with no accuracy, we can't hit Horn Drill, so we simply lose. Let's try this one again, hoping to get fewer accuracy drops. We do manage to at least get back to Nidoqueen this next time on full health. So I'll try Hyper Beam. It just misses. Horn Drill is basically our best play at this point, though Sky Attack can do decent damage. It's just going to be super inaccurate after taking all of those sand attacks. I think at this point we would even prefer to get slashed by the Doug Trio as long as we have enough HP, because we'd rather just get the range where we can knock it out. In fact, it's so close to being a one-hitter there that certainly a crit will get the job done. Badge boosts from the first Rhyhorn could also get the job done. This time we do get through to the Nidoqueen with no accuracy drops, which is massive. I'm going to try to Hyper Beam this Pokemon down. It's going to take 2 hits after that crit. Still, we managed to get to Nidoking. We are faster. It goes Poison Sting. I hit the Horn Drill. We've made it to the Rhydon. We just need to land one of these Horn Drills. We miss both. Now there's nothing that we can really do. If he stomps, we simply lose. We weren't going to deal enough damage to get through that one. Still, we managed to get to Rhydon, so that gives me a little bit of hope. Now, we can always YOLO with Horn Drill, but that takes a lot of luck to actually get all of the hits. Still, we'll have 9 PP in Horn Drill after mimicking from the first Rhyhorn. So there is a reasonable possibility of getting 4 hits in the battle. It's just not great. Certainly not impossible, though. Anytime we're on low health, I think that is the strategy we have to go for, just because we're so likely to get knocked out otherwise. Still, I'm much more likely to go for normal attacks on the Nidos if I get there on decent health, but even they can deal enough damage that we do go down a lot of the time against them when we just try to attack normally. This time we do get back to the Rhydon. 2 PP remaining in Horn Drill. Can we hit? No, we cannot. You got to keep in mind that while it is only 30% accurate, that is 2 attempts at 30% accuracy, which is why the odds are actually decent there. We effectively have like 2 attempts at Horn Drill on each Pokemon rather than just 1. If you had to string together 1 and 1 and 1 and 1, it would be really bad. But this is just kind of on the borderline of possibility here. So we'll just keep getting to Rhydon here, seeing if we can land a Horn Drill. Yet again, we miss and we get wrecked. This time we have 3 Horn Drill PP going to the final Rhydon. We missed the first one, missed the second one, missed the third one, and that's basically it. Still, 3 shots at 30% is actually better than a 50% chance of getting the hit there cumulatively, as long as we actually get all of those attempts. Back to Rhydon again. This time we finally get the Horn Drill on the 25th attempt, and that allows us to finally win, getting to level 33. 2 hours, 15 minutes, 5 seconds to get to this point with a Pidgeot. And with that, we're able to move on in the game, where all we've got left is Blaney Boy. Time to see if we can manage a victory against him, and then it's on to the league. But Lorelei might actually be the end of this one. She might be the spot where it's actually impossible to progress. We're just going to have to find out. Still, we have to test this fight against Blaine first, so let's just see how it goes. I will mimic agility so that I can make sure that I'm faster than everything. And now let's Hyper Beam. And at this level, we get a one-hitter with a crit at least. Let's see the range on Ponyta. That is a one-hitter as well. I'm still going to Sand Attack a couple times on the Rapidash, because this is not a one-hit KO. Let's finish our agility setup. Stomp doesn't do that much, fortunately, so we do get through. We get to the final Arcanine, and we're faster. We get Roar turn 1, Roar turn 2, Roar turn 3. I'm just going for all of the sand attacks, though. We get a nice crit. He's super potions. Now we're going for Sky Attack. We miss, but he's missing everything too, as we've missed 2 Sky Attacks in a row, and we've got only 2 PP remaining, but we survive the takedown. So here we do get through, getting to level 35, 2 hours, 16 minutes to get through Blaine, 220 resets to get to this point. Absolute brutality. This is one of the worst runs I think I've ever done on the channel. And now it's time to go into the league. And we got to see if we can find any strategy that will get this Pokemon through. There's not a lot to lean on here, so I'm just going to take every TM that I'm capable of learning, basically. I highly doubt that we'll ever get a use rest. We'll take a bunch of reflect TMs just in case, but I'm really not feeling confident as we go into this section. I think Sand Attack's going to be our only strategy, though there is one other strat that we can try on Lorelei. I'm going to go into her first as I am and just see how this goes. So Lorelei attempt number 1. Here's what we're going to do in this first one. I'm going to go for Sand Attack, hoping to get a miss. We see Aurora Beam nearly ends me. A critical hit was good the next turn, and she does have a chance to go for Growl or Rest on turn 2 because she prioritizes those non-damaging moves on the second turn. So there is a decent chance that she will use something here that will allow us to get through. But because of that, the strategy is actually to learn Fly here. I'm going to learn Fly over Sky Attack. Sky Attack is our strongest move, but it has that charging turn. At least Fly puts us in the air where we can't be hit, and this is going to help us a little bit here. Let's see how this goes. In this case, what we do is we fly turn 1, we hit turn 2, and we hope that she goes for Rest. Turn 2 is the only turn that she'll go for Rest against this Pokemon, but that gives us, I think, the best possible chance of actually getting through this. Here we do get the Rest, so now let's go for Sand Attack like crazy here, just hoping to get her to miss a bunch of times. Now let's see what Hyper Beam does. A crit does over half. We get Aurora Beamed and the attack drop, and then she hits again, so nothing we can do about that. Might be better to just go for Hyper Beam after we get her to Rest. Still, it's going to be random here. We're going to have to keep resetting until we get a run where she actually uses Rest to see if we can get the rest of our damage in after that. If we can knock out Dugong, there could be strats later on, but honestly, I'm not super confident. We've got 8 rare candies in the bag at this point, so that's all we have to lean on. We would get to level 43 right here, which is still too low to get to agility, so no badge boosts until we level up one more time after that. The biggest thing that we can see here, though, is that Fly, in spite of the fact that it's effectively 105 power, nearly half the power of Hyper Beam, is doing laughably little to this Pokemon, 29 damage. So that makes me think that the rare candies are necessary here. So I'm going to start dropping them. Let's go up to level 38 first. That's the next damage rounding level, and just see if that affects the ranges at all. We're still hoping for Rest here, but now we can go for Hyper Beam, and it looks like Hyper Beam is going to be a 3-hitter. We get a nice crit though, so we get a shot at Cloyster. The problem with Cloyster here is that it's going to go for Aurora Beam and Aurora Beam only. There's nothing that we can do about that other than to Sand Attack. We can survive one Aurora Beam, sure, but we're not going to deal enough damage due to its high defense, and that's why I think once again we have to go for rare candies here. Let's get to level 40. Now again, the reason we're going Fly here is for that chance to get Rest, to get multiple turns to try to knock this one out. Let's see if it's a 2-hitter now. It still does not quite look like a 2-hit KO. We get another crit, which is fine. But now, once again, we don't do nearly enough to Cloyster, and we're just getting wrecked there. I think we have to get these first 2 Pokemon to be 2-hit KOs so that we could luck into a critical hit one-shot in order to get through. That's honestly the only way I see Pidgeot getting through this fight. This time we got an attack drop, but we see the critical hit Hyper Beam only does half to the Cloyster. So yet again, we would need insane luck here in order to get through that one. And this is at level 43, the highest possible level for our Pokemon. So I think we just have to reset any turn we get Growl or Aurora Beam from the first Dugong. We have to reset for the run where it goes for Rest, at least giving us that possibility. So here at this level, it does appear that Hyper Beam is a 2-hit KO on Dugong. Now we need to Sand Attack against the Cloyster. We get an attack drop, which is terrible, and we get knocked out after that. So the only reason we actually survived 2 turns previously against the Cloyster was because we already had an attack drop on, giving us a badge boost. It's also worth noting that after Fly, we could try to get a critical hit on the Dugong on any turn it doesn't Rest. It's just not going to be great there. Then I think the only strategy is accuracy strats against the Cloyster. So here, as far as I can tell, this just isn't working, because while I can get runs where I get to Cloyster, I've never gotten anywhere close to actually taking it out. My basic game plan from here would be to use Mimic against the Slowbro, trying to get access to the move Amnesia to get badge boosts, hopefully be able to one-shot with something against the Jinx, and hoping that I could get some sort of range at the very end, maybe with crits or something, in order to get through the final Lapras. But honestly, that's all I can think of as strategies to get through this. And we need such insane luck against that Cloyster because of the fact that it's going to just use Aurora Beam every single turn, that unless we get tons of misses there, we're simply losing this fight. Honestly, the only move that I can see that would get a Pokemon like this through this fight would be Double Team, where you'd be banking on setting up Double Team while the Dugong is asleep. The difference there, of course, is that Double Team gives badge boosts and it would last the entire battle, effectively giving you that way of getting through this. Anything short of that, though, just seems to not get you through the first two Pokemon, and that's not really a strategy we want to test because that's something that basically every Pokemon could do, and I don't think would be very fun to actually watch and see. We can see that the Hyper Beam is basically a 3-hit KO here against Cloyster, and in fact, we didn't even quite get the range, so we still get knocked out, even when we get the best luck I've gotten to this point so far. It's because Cloyster has that massive 204 defense stat that just makes it a hard wall here. We're 10 levels lower. There's just really not much to do. Now, at that point, I had to go pick up my son from school, so I had to come back later and do more attempts at this fight. Ultimately, I do think that this is possible. It just is going to depend on the sand attack luck that we get in this one, because going all out for attack simply will not work. So here we finally get through the Cloyster on 2 HP, getting to Slowbro, and this is where my strategy is to mimic the move Amnesia to hopefully be survivable enough for the rest of the fight. The problem is that we can get growled, it goes withdraw, so our attack stat has been completely debuffed in this fight, which means we deal no damage. It could be better to go withdraw there to try to get a bunch of badge boosts, but really we need more of an attack stat so that we could actually knock out Slowbro and Jinx, so this one is also a reset. Now at this point, there's really only one last YOLO strat that I think I can go for, which is to mimic the move Clamp from the Cloyster. The logic here being that with Clamp, we can in theory whittle this Pokemon down into a range where hopefully Hyper Beam can finish it off. We actually managed to get that here. We'll Hyper Beam on the Slowbro, it growls. We're going to have to hope for more crits here in order to get through this Pokemon because our attack stat is just getting completely destroyed and we have no way to steal badge boosts from this Pokemon at this point, and that basically means we're done on that one. The Slowbro is so incredibly bulky that there's just not much that we can do there without setting up some sort of badge boost. So once again, we get back to Slowbro, and I think we need to take this Pokemon down to as low a health as we can before it gets any chances to hit us with anything or to set up its own boosts. Then we can go for Hyper Beam. We get one growl there. We don't quite get the range, but we do manage to get through to Jinx. We get a level up and learn agility here, which we can definitely learn over sand attack at this point. Let's see if Hyper Beam does anything against the Jinx, though. It is not a one-hit KO. And the fact that we level up right there after Slowbro means that we couldn't set up any badge boosts there. We would be completely stuck with what our stats are at that time after the level up. So while Clamp does get us to the Slowbro more often, I don't think it's the correct strategy here, because I think we're going to need to mimic that Amnesia to have any real shot against the last two Pokemon. Here we get back to Slowbro with much better health and with no attack drops. We go Hyper Beam, it hits Growl right there. We have to recharge, and it's going to hit another Growl, but I'm going to mimic the move Amnesia here. Let's set it up so that we get the maximum number of badge boosts. Of course, Growl is coming in, and there's nothing we can do about that. We're just going to have to crit from here in order to knock this one out. It might even be worth going for some other moves here like Sand Attack to try to knock this one out, because at this point, our attack stat is completely shot. She's sitting here using Amnesia, and Growl has already gotten us to -6 attack. So we're going to reach the point of struggling here, it looks like. But it might honestly be better to simply Sand Attack against the Slowbro in order to try to get it to not hit me so many times with debuffs. We wish we could be like Giovanni and use a guard spec there in order to get through, which is a sentence I never thought I would say. So this time on Slowbro, I'm going to set up a bunch of sand attacks here to stop it from hopefully hitting me with too many growls. It still gets a couple, and obviously that dramatically reduces the damage we deal with our Hyper Beam. We're going to need crits here in order to win this fight. I'm going to switch into fly here since we know we're basically just doing chip damage unless we get the crit. We're all the way down to 5 HP and unfortunately we simply get knocked out there even with the amnesia setup. So honestly at this point the most consistent strat that I've found is to go for the clamp strat since it at least gets us through the cloister more often. So I think we drop our last PP up into Mimic here. We'll still try to sand attack on the cloister just to reduce its accuracy a little bit, hoping that we can then Mimic, clamp, and then get the hits. Of course, we'll mostly get knocked out there. There's just not much we can do about it. I still think we need a high enough attack stat that we could at least finish things off with the move Hyper Beam. So we don't necessarily want a bunch of attack drops here. We're really hoping to get through as we are. That's really it. And of course, Clamp has a decent chance to miss. So we're going to need a lot of luck here. We know we need to get this cloister down to about 45-ish HP in order to knock it out with a Hyper Beam after that. And we don't quite get in that range this time. So I feel like against the Slowbro, the best thing that we can do is to go for attacks while we still have a high attack stat before it gets the chance to set up any growls or withdraws. Here we can see Water Gun still does massive damage to us though, relatively speaking, because we don't have any amnesia to set up here. So we're going to need a lot of luck there. We might have to clamp it down into a range. I think if we can get to Jinx with full attack, Hyper Beam should just one-shot there, and then it's going to come down to the final Lapras, which is basically just going to spam Blizzard. It has a chance to miss, but we're probably getting wrecked there if I have to guess. I just don't see any way we even survive a single hit, even if we were on full health. So at this point, the only strategy that I can think of that could possibly get this Pokemon through would be to go for some sort of substitute sand attack toxic strat in order to try to get a bunch of luck. So basically what we would do is we would sit here and set up first with the sand attacks, hoping that we can get the opponent to miss us enough turns. Then we would mimic rest from the first Dugong. Now, of course, this is just completely YOLO nonsense at this point, but really it's honestly the best that I think we have with this Pokemon is to just go all in on these sorts of strats. Technically, we could get multiple substitute TMs in a normal playthrough, even though I only program one into this ROM hack. And, you know, I learned Fly on this battle, so we could just go back before this battle and learn substitute instead of Fly. But then I think it's all about getting all of the sand attacks, mimicking the move Rest, setting up Toxic, and then just resting here behind our substitute, knowing that we'll still be 2-hit KO'd. But we can set up a new substitute anytime that it gets broken, and then we can just hit like another sand attack, and we can eventually get through these Pokemon. Is it going to be pretty? No. Is it something that I want to do with my time? No. But it's literally the only strategy that I can come up with that gives us any possibility of victory here. And since we've got Rest and we've got a bunch of accuracy drops, we can in theory always heal up and get back to setting up a substitute. And Pokemon will eventually go down as long as they are hit with the Toxic as well. So we managed to get back to Slowbro. It has a bunch of non-damaging moves, which is perfectly fine. So I won't go quite as hard on the sand attacks here. I think we want to save them for the remaining Pokemon. So let's just rest and hope that it goes Amnesia and Growl enough times. Even its Water Gun is strong enough to break our substitute, but we'll set up a new one before we get to the Jinx. We get to level 44 right here. We'll just have to skip the move Agility because it doesn't work with this strategy. So no agility. We're back to sand attacking against Jinx and hoping that we can get the luck to get a miss here after the sand attack, since we're getting on very low HP and I guarantee Ice Punch simply ends us. So that is basically my last strategy here. The only thing that I think we have left that gets us through this fight. We can see we're already on a negative score at this point. We might even want attack drops just to get badge boosts and special at this point, since we're gonna heal anyway. Still, we've got to get quite a bit of luck to get this to work, because we still need opponents to mostly miss against us in order to get through this fight. Now, obviously, the big difference between this and, say, the substitute double team strat is that you have to reset up on each individual opponent with the accuracy. You don't get to keep the evasion the entire time, but that's basically what this has become. is the equivalent of trying to get through with double team and substitute and toxic and rest. Honestly, we would probably want to put our PP ups in this case into sand attack in order to give it more PP so that we could set it up more times on each opponent. And we're basically just sitting here resetting for the luck to get a miss from one of the opponents so that we can set up the next substitute and get back to toxic. So this time we get to the Jinx. Once again, we will not learn agility. We're just going to start spamming the sand attacks and hoping that it misses. We'll save 4 sand attacks for the final Lapras. Go for toxic here. And now we're just back into our substitute rest strategies and hoping it doesn't hit us multiple times in a row. When we do get hit, it's a crit and we simply go down from full health. Here we get to see that we do survive an ice punch if it's not a critical hit. It just takes us down to very low health. And if we don't have the substitute off, we get wrecked. But at least we can see against Jinx, we could technically survive multiple turns with the right setup. Back to Jinx again. We'll set up some sand attacks since we know Ice Punch won't one-shot here. Set up a new substitute, rest, and just hope that it gets some misses. Unfortunately, we just cannot get the luck. So after putting PP ups into the move sand attack, we can manage to get to Jinx. We just barely survived that hit, but we've set up 5 accuracy drops. This is the best luck that we're gonna get, basically. And of course, she has to critical hit me and I lose. So this strategy, while it is obviously using a bunch of broken mechanics, isn't like some sort of cheat code where you're guaranteed to win at this point. It's still pretty terrible trying to get through with this setup. Obviously, it takes our score as well because we've used a bunch of TMs that I hate using, and we're still sitting here resetting hundreds of times. But we can ultimately get through this, I think, as long as we just get God tier luck as we go through it. It's just going to be a question of how many resets that takes. And it's like the worst way to play this run, but it is a strategy that's legitimately available without going double team, which is the only reason why I have to sit here and do this. This time we go for 6 accuracy drops on Jinx as it breaks our substitute. Now we can hit the toxic. Now we can go for the rest to get our HP back and just hope again that it misses enough turns or at least doesn't get a crit when we don't have a substitute up. So we set up another substitute here as Jinx is very close to going down. She's gonna super potion. She super potions again, but ultimately we get our first attempt here at Lapras, which is only going to go Blizzard this entire time. And we're hoping that we can get a miss from Blizzard so that we can continue to set up here. We are now out of substitutes. We get the Blizzard miss. We'll set up Toxic, and now we're going all in on the Sand attack since I don't think we survive a Blizzard, but I guess we have to rest here on low health. And sure enough, we get one shot from full health there. So we would have needed more substitutes and better accuracy luck on the final Lapras in order to get this one to go. That is, of course, the only time that we've ever seen the Lapras in several hundred resets here. And it's only because we're going for the single most broken strategy that we can come up with this Pokemon. Back to Lapras again on 5 HP. So we're going to need a bunch of misses here because we can't really go rest. The second it hits Blizzard, we are dead. So that's basically the end of that one. And here after 4 hours, reaching Lapras a few times, not getting through, and just a massively negative score. The fact is that, don't get me wrong, if you sat here and you reset an infinite number of times on this battle, you will eventually get one where you get all of this cheese set up and Pidgeot survives and it manages to beat Lorelei. Then you're probably getting through Bruno. You're probably getting through Agatha. You might even be able to get through the champion. And that's what we're going to test right here. But just understand that this is not legitimate because I'm not actually going to be able to get through this fight. I'm just going to test what happens if I did get through this fight to see what happens on the rest of the trainers, because it could be that Lorelei is the only actual wall here. So let's just test this out. So the way that we're going to look at this is we're just going to come in a setup where our opponents are all just frozen. So they cannot move. Yes, ice types being frozen. That's just to demonstrate clearly this is not legitimate. We're not actually like sitting here winning the fight. No, this is just us showing what could happen after the fact if we ever won this fight. So here I would be able to get through the Slowbro. I'm going to skip agility since I think the moveset we would have to use to get through would be that broken set that wouldn't allow us to get agility. Of course, Jinx is a one-hitter with Hyper Beam on full attack. We can see Lapras would have taken massive luck. 3 Hyper Beams to get through. But okay, so let's just imagine after all of the time that I put in that I somehow managed to get through Lorelei. Let's just see how the rest of the league goes. Do we hit another wall, or does this actually work out after Lorelei? Because in that case, we might debate that maybe I dropped some rare candies too early in the mid game. Maybe we need to come back and do a redo of this one. But right now, I feel like Lorelei is such a wall to Pidgeot that it would simply be impossible to get through her. Still, we can see how we would have done against Bruno. Now, against Bruno, I think the best strategy would have been to mimic the move Harden so that we could just sit here and set up all of the Hardens on the first Onix, basically giving ourselves a maxed out defense stat. We'll see that our moves basically do nothing here, but after that, we're basically going to deal decent enough damage. Still, I think, to get through this because Onix doesn't have great HP. The problem is I didn't come in healing any PP here. So let's just go ahead and fix that really quickly. We'll drop an elixir and try this fight again. Still same basic strategy here. Mimic Harden, use Harden 6 times, let him use Rage if he wants. That's actually kind of good for us because it stops him from setting up more defense. Nice critical hit Hyper Beam there. Even as he builds Rage, is not doing that much damage. And so we will get through that Pokemon. We get to level 45 as the Hitmonchan comes out. We can go fly. It's not a one-hitter. It's a 2-hit KO. That brings out the Hitmonlee, misses high jump kick. We get the 1-hit KO on that one. We go back to the Hyper Beam here on the Onix, but we miss. And it's going Harden, and we're just missing all of our attacks. That's why we're dealing like no damage here, and it is building up Rage. So this would have been nicer if we had actually, managed to hit something before he set up a bunch of defense buffs, or if we could get like some critical hits or something. Here we're gonna have to go Sand Attack against his Rage and eventually reach the point of going Struggle here because we don't have anything left. And I don't think we have enough HP to get through the remaining teams, so we probably just lose right here. Sure enough, it looks like that is the case. So Bruno turns out to still be a bit of a wall. Maybe we don't want to go for the Harden strat. Maybe we want to go all in on attack here against the first Onix and just knock it out. We'll stick with the Hyper Beam on the Hitmonchan. It is not a one-hitter, interestingly enough, so you're better off going fly there. We could mimic high jump kick here from the Hitmonlee. We get mega kicked, but we do knock that one down. Let's just see what high jump kick does if we do manage to hit it on the Onix. We keep missing, and he's set up a bunch of defense buffs, so we actually lose again to Bruno. Bruno is, again, not an easy fight for this Pokemon. It's like the one case where him going for the X defense actually is like a good strategy and results in us having trouble getting through the Onixes. We basically just have to go all in on attack there. We could mimic Ice Punch here from the Hitmonchan. That's probably the better play against the Onix, to be perfectly honest. So here, back to the Onix. We'll go Ice Punch, get a critical hit one-shot, so that works. Now we can go Fly against the Machamp. It goes Leer again, and that allows us to finally get the victory. So it looks like that one relies on mimicking Ice Punch in order to get through. Still not great, but technically possible. Now we're on to Agatha. Let's see if you could get through Agatha with Pidgeot at this point. So Agatha, attempt number 1 right here. I think we could mimic some moves that are pretty good, but I think we just want to go fly against the first Gengar and just deal as much damage as we can. But we can see we're not even 2-hit KOing here, so we probably have to mimic Hypnosis, honestly. Nightshade could also be good since it would give us certain ranges. We can 2-shot against the Golbat. We've made it to the Haunter. I'm actually going to mimic Hypnosis here so that we have that strategy to try to get through. Of course, we hit ourselves a bunch of times in confusion, then we get put to sleep, and then we get wrecked. So let's try this again, but this time with the mimicked Hypnosis strats, just to see, since that's probably the best play against this team. Here we just, hit ourselves in confusion 4 times in a row. Perfectly standard luck. She swaps to Golbat, we put it to sleep, and then we'll just Hyper Beam it down from there. Back to the Gengar. We are trying to land the Hypnosis. We get it. So So now we can go into our fly, except we can't because we just miss. And then we get put to sleep. We wake up immediately, so that's fine. We can put this Gengar back to sleep, miss the fly. Now we finally hit it, but we get put back to sleep again as she super potions. And what do you know, we're getting Nightshaded down. So yeah, this isn't going to be a consistent fight by any means with this Pidgeot. I mean, we could go for some accuracy drops to reduce the accuracy of things like Hypnosis, but we just get Nightshaded down. This time we do get through the first 2 Pokemon and back to the Haunter, but it just Nightshades us after we miss Hypnosis. So certainly a very random fight to say the least. We're basically in a 3-hit KO range from the Nightshade, and there's not much we can do about it. So that's kind of the story of this fight. This time back to Haunter, we do manage to hit Hypnosis. We get a critical hit one-shot. We get to level 47 on the Arbok. We miss a couple times. It bites and takes us to low health. We can use Hyper Beam here, but it's going to be a 2-hitter, which is why you need the Hypnosis there. We get to the final Gengar, and we hit ourselves in confusion and die. So basically, like, this graveyard in Agatha's room is basically, you know, a headstone for every, 20 or 30 attempts that we've failed at battles so far. Turns out that the Elite Four is basically putting this Pidgeot into the ground. I think with enough levels, you would eventually get through this, don't get me wrong, because at some point, Fly would probably just one-shot everything and you'd be faster than everything. But like I said, I don't think we could go for agility because of the fact that our whole strategy against Lorelei would have been to eventually get through with the completely busted strats that we were using there. And Agatha is just going to be Agatha. So she's like another wall here. And that's the real takeaway from this. Like, even if we get through Lorelei, it's not like we're just cruising through the league after that. The rest of the league is pretty bad for a Pidgeot, especially in this version. I think if this were Pokemon Yellow version, we would actually have an easier time getting through. The first Gengar wouldn't know the moves Hypnosis, for example, and it wouldn't have Nightshade. It would be using things like Lick, which could give us significantly better chances of getting through since Lick wouldn't affect a normal type Pokemon. I'm going to try a Confuse Ray strat instead of everything else, just to see if it will give us a chance here. Of course, I have a misclick on the Haunter after she swaps, and we simply get wrecked from there. This time we're getting the luck to actually put Hypnosis on that Haunter. She swaps to the Arbok. We managed to get the 2-hit KO there, getting to level 47. Haunter is going to be a 2-hit KO with Fly. We just missed the second one. And well, yes, I know if we hit ourselves in confusion while in the air, we could get the glitch where we are immune to damage from then, but we don't have any other damage dealing moves for Ghosts. That does, however, present one possibility. We might be able to get this to work if we can get confused and get that set up by mimicking a move that will allow us to hit Ghosts. So let's just see if we can hit ourselves in confusion in the air. Of course, that's going to require us to mimic the move Wing Attack so that we have something that is actually usable while we are in the air. So let's see if we can get confused. Confuse me, Gengar. I demand confusion. Nope, it doesn't do it. We're just gonna Hyper Beam here against the Arbok since it could also paralyze me. That would also allow me to set up the glitch. So apparently that's my new strategy, is try to get confused so that you can hopefully hit yourself in confusion while in the air. Unfortunately, we snap out of confusion that time. We hit ourselves in confusion while we're not in the air. And unfortunately, that did not work out for us. Okay, we get confused, we fly, we hit ourselves. Now we should be invulnerable to damage. So now we can just go for the wing attacks and basically not have to worry about anything. We can Hyper Beam on this Arbok. Oh, but it does hit the acid. Never mind. We were not in the position of being invulnerable anymore. So yeah, guess we need paralysis from that Arbok in order to get the paralyzed fly glitch going, which just goes to show the impossibility of this one. So the moral of the story is that Pidgeot, not only does it not get through Lorelei on ultra minimum battles, even if it did, Bruno is a bit of a wall. Agatha is really a wall at this level. You have to imagine that Lance with his hyper beams is going to be tough. The champion's going to be tough. So Pidgeot simply has to fail here. So what I am going to do, I'm going to get through the champion here just so that I can register this one into the tier list. That's because my tier list only updates when we beat the champion. But with the time and the score, we can just guarantee that this Pokemon will be all the way at the bottom, because this is basically what happens when we give up on a run in this. We're just gonna see like what the ranges would have been at our current level. Here we can see like we might be able to one-shot there against that Haunter. A critical hit will one-shot the Arbok. The final Gengar is a 3-hit KO with Fly if she doesn't go for the Super Potion. So you can get through there. It's not pretty, but ultimately, you know, if we had managed to get through Lorelei, we would have had a chance there. It just would have taken forever. Of course, that brings us to Lancey Boy, who would be here with his Gyarados. I'm just going to mimic the move Hyper Beam here because I forgot to recover PP. Perfectly fine. Against the Gyarados, Hyper Beam would be a 2-hitter, so we would be going for a bunch of Sand Attack strats there. We would get to level 48 against the Dragonair. Hyper Beam here is not a 1-hit KO, even though it's Stab. So we would need to go Fly into Hyper Beam in order to knock that one out. We would be going Fly into Hyper Beam for the next Dragonair as well, keeping in mind this Pokemon could go for Agility. That could give us the chance to get through without any damage since it's just going to randomize. Aerodactyl with the Hyper Beam would be a 3-hit KO from the looks of things. And of course, he has the Hyper Potions, so we would be getting pretty wrecked right here personally. I think we would not be getting through this in any range where we feel too happy about it. Still, we can get through. We would get to the Dragonite. Hyper Beam with a critical hit would take it to low health, and we would be able to get the 2-hitter with a crit. So probably a 3-hitter otherwise with the Hyper Beams. Yet again, we would be exposed for a ton of turns trying to get through that. So that just tells us that that would not be a great range. Good to know. So then when we went into the champion, keeping in mind this is not legitimate because we've completely gotten wrecked in this. We're just going through the champion to see ranges and to register in the Hall of Fame. This is where things I think would get really real. Because here against the champion, of course, we lead off against his fellow Ultra Chad Pidgeot. Let's see what the ranges would be. Hyper Beam would do about half. We would need to get 2 Hyper Beams, so we would need some luck with like some Whirlwind Wing attacks here. Against Alakazam, I think my strategy would be to mimic the move Psychic to have something for the next Rhydon. Since Rhydon doesn't really have any good moves against itself, then I think we could Hyper Beam. That will be a 1-hitter. Now Psychic on the Rhydon, since we don't have great special and no stab, looks like a 4-hit KO. It's a 3-hitter with the crit. Arcanine comes out next. We can Hyper Beam. This is going to be a 2-hitter with the Hyper Beam, but we can get it down at least with a critical hit from the Fly. We'll Fly against the Exeggutor. That's going to give us quite a bit of trouble there because that was a 3-hitter on that Pokemon. Still, we do manage to get through. We get to Blastoise. We are, I believe, faster than this Pokemon, which means we could have gone for the YOLO mimic of Horn Drill against that Rhydon in order to Horn Drill here. Let's see what Hyper Beam does. A critical hit does that much. Okay, we would be able to get the victory probably if we could just get to the Rhydon in this one. But it's a 2-hit KO range with Hyper Beam on the first Pidgeot, which is not great. We could then one-shot against the Alakazam, which would be fine, assuming we didn't get wrecked there. Mimic the move Horn Drill, and then we might just be YOLOing it from there with Horn Drill in order to win. So I'm just saying that while yes, we just demonstrated that there is a range that eventually gets through the champion, it's so terribly bad with this Ultra Chad Pidgeot. In the end, I took 577 resets. I tried 11 TMs. I kept swapping broken TMs in and out, which is why we ended up with 7 broken TMs. We'll register the champion as 4 hours, 40 minutes. I'll get the rest of them in just for the sake of the database. But this Giga Chad Pidgeot would go straight into Bruno tier. This Pokemon does not beat the game on Ultra Minimum Battles. It does not. I mean, we got to level 51. That is right in line with other medium slow level up Pokemon who have gotten to this point in the game. The highest level that we've gotten was that level 55 with the Charizard. Would the 4 levels have made a significant enough difference at the end of the day in order to allow us to get through this effectively? I don't think so. I don't think that we were just a couple levels away from having a perfectly smooth run through Lorelei or a reasonable run through the rest of the league. I think that Pokemon was getting absolutely wrecked So it is Bruno tier. It belongs in Bruno tier. We are never talking about Pidgeot again. We'll have to do a full Ultra Chad Pidgeot run one of these days. But for now, that was bad. That was bad. So really, that does it for this one. This is one case where the rival technically didn't lose. We actually lost all the way back on Lorelei, and we just decided to test it through the end just to see what the ranges would look like. And the fact is, we can see a lot of spots beyond Lorelei where this Pidgeot was not going to get through. It is a fail Pokemon. It is Bruno tier. We don't talk about Pidgeot anymore. And that's going to be the end of this one. Next time, we're going to be back with Raticate, which might do a lot better on the basis that it has a much wider move pool. So it might actually have solutions for some of these problems that we ran into with Pidgeot. Pidgeot's limited move pool, the fact that its stab typings aren't that great, and especially the flying type just gets completely wrecked by Kanto, leads to this being our first Pokemon that cannot beat the game, at least not reasonably, on Ultra Minimum battles. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that one. We will be back with more of these videos, and we're going in Pokedex order. So next is Raticate, then we're going to have to suffer through the Fearow run, but then we might actually get some Pokemon that are pretty good. We're just going to have to see, but for now, that is it for this one. I want to say thank you to everybody who watches to the end. Thank you to the channel members. Thanks for everybody who's supporting me and my family right now by watching these videos. Think about buying me a cup of noodle by going ahead and joining that channel membership down below. With that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.